Hello and welcome to Pencils and Stories, the place where we talk about making your own comics. Welcome to another live stream. I'm so happy you're here, or if you're watching later, then that's totally fine too. Today we're going to talk about how to stop procrastinating. I've read quite a few people, like comments from people who were talking about procrastination and how it's hard for them to get started on their comic, and like they keep pushing it off and keep pushing it into the future basically. And I just wanted to talk a little bit to that, and also like why it's not too late to start your comic in 2020. Yes, you can still start your comic. If you are waiting for the new year to start your comic, I would just say to you, why not start one right now? If you want to start one, why would you wait for 2021? You can do some prep work in this year still, or you can even start just making a simple comic, but we'll get to all of that. First of all, I'm doing these live streams right now. I just started a new job. It's been taxing a little bit, like, getting to know all the stuff in the new job, and then also, doing social media and going on YouTube and stuff. So that's why I'm doing these live streams, but I really love, sometimes people come in live, which I really love. And I just love talking to you off the cuff a little bit, but I am working on some more videos that are pre-recorded, and I check my calendar and I upload always on Thursdays. Also, subscribe if you want weekly videos on making comics. Like I said, I upload every single Thursday. I have not missed a Thursday in 2020 yet, which makes me really happy. And I saw that one of the Thursdays of 2020 is Christmas, and one of the Thursdays is New Year's Eve, which is really funny to me. So it's like two big holidays on a Thursday. And I know that some people really like, when they have some more free time, they like to watch videos, or maybe, especially now with like the COVID thing going on, like we don't know what it's going to look like. At least here in the Netherlands, we still don't know what the holidays are going to look like. And, can we even get together normally and stuff? Like, we are still in some sort of partly based lockdown. So, if you are stuck at home and stuff, you want to watch some videos, why not? So I really wanted to still upload on those Thursdays, Christmas and New Year's Eve. And I thought of a nice idea to do something with you, with the community, on Christmas, because I have another video planned for New Year's Eve. But on Christmas, I thought it would be fun to review some of your comics, to do a little critique. So this is my invitation to you. If you want your comic critiqued live not live, but on YouTube, in the general publics, then send me a comic page, one comic page. It will be at my own discretion, but please don't send me anything that's not safe for work, because I want to keep this channel all ages, and not any hateful stuff, or at your own discretion. Like, send something that would be comfortable for all ages, and not any like PG-13 or 16 stuff. So yeah, send me the comic page. You can DM me on Twitter. I'm at pencils_stories. You can, I don't know if that works on Instagram, but you can DM me on Instagram, I guess. Maybe just send me a link to your website, and then give me permission to download your page to my hard drive so I can study it and stuff. And then I can share it in the YouTube video as well. And I will, give you some general comments on the artwork, and, paneling and flow and all of that stuff. Should be fun. Let's celebrate some comics here from you guys. So send that over to me. Yeah. And then just as a general reminder, I will be launching my course. Yes, it's coming in January. It's a course, How to Start a Comic. If you wanted to start comics in 2021, then this is definitely a course that you could be getting. January 25th is when I will start the Kickstarter. I will launch the Kickstarter then, and I want to make 2021 which sounds really weird, to be like your best year to making comics yet. So I'm putting in a lot of work on my course, and I'm working hard on it. Go to howtostartacomic.com and put yourself on a notification list, because you do not want to miss this Kickstarter. With that all out of the way, let's start today's topic. So we're talking procrastination, which is a thing that a lot of starting comic artists seem to suffer from, and sometimes even like people who have established webcomics seem to suffer from. And this is actually, I actually touch on this in a lesson in my course as well, since I think that this is a very big issue sometimes that creators have. But I personally, with my own experience with like art block stuff and, studying productivity, because I can be a person who procrastinates a lot. With all of the study that I did to kind of like overcome that and become better at it, I came to the conclusion that unless there is something, else going on that keeps your art blocked and stuff, and that's the reason for your procrastination, then in general, procrastination falls into two categories, and one of them is fear and one of them is overwhelm. I find that when I'm procrastinating is usually one of two of these things, sometimes even both. But let's keep it simple here. And I know fear sounds super heavy, but it can just be a general discomfort of, a certain kind of panel that you want to make, and that's going to be a hard panel, or just, intimidation of starting your comic, having a certain kind of fear of not being able to see this comic through. That was a big one for me. It's why I'm procrastinating on starting my comic for the longest time, because I was like, I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. So that's a big thing. And then intimidation and not knowing exactly what to do is another thing. You can be intimidated by the comic process in general, of like, whoa, this is so much work. Making a comic page is like a ton of work. That could be one thing. But it can also be a thing of like not knowing what the next step is for the page or the step that you're working on right now. For example, you cannot find a reference for something super complicated or whatever, or you need to design something, you need to design a new character that's coming up, you need to design a location or a costume or whatever, and you're stuck in that and you don't really know how to proceed. But very often it's not very clear why we procrastinate. Like, I'm making this very clear right now. I'm talking fear and I'm talking intimidation and not knowing exactly what to do. Those can be all things that give us a general feeling of being blocked. We start thinking, oh no, I have art block. Or, we have this idea of like, well, I would rather be on YouTube right now and watching some videos. That could be the general feeling, but you don't necessarily know why it is that you're procrastinating. So one tip that generally works really well for me is, first of all, don't beat yourself up. That's counterproductive. Everything that tells you, I can't do it, I'm a procrastinator, all that kind of stuff will keep your mind stuck, and you won't be looking for solutions, because now you have said to yourself, well, I am a procrastinator. And that will keep you stuck, because then, like, okay, that's nice. Now you're a procrastinator. Now you're stuck, But if you think like, well, I'm procrastinating, which is a symptom of something, let's see how I can do something else. Let's see how I can get out of this is another mindset. If you kind of like the difference, if you think like, well, I am just like this, then that's who you are, and that's how you're going to act. But if you think, I'm procrastinating, I'm going to figure out what it is, and then I'm going to, do the opposite thing, taking action, because people always say like, take action. And it's like, yeah, but if you don't know what to do, or, you're intimidated by it, then first you might need to do some step. And what I find really helpful is just taking a piece of paper, just a random blank piece of paper, and just write down everything that's going on in your mind right now. And especially when it comes to your comic, to see like, write down any actions, might not even be actions that you can do right now, but just actions of like, I need to do this and this and this and this and this. And it could be scenes that are way into the future. Just write it all down. If it's on your mind, write it down. But also write down like, I really don't feel like drawing this page today. And then then figure out why not. Is there a specific panel that you feel is intimidated? Is it just, the subject matter is not that fun to you? Sometimes that happens. I don't like drawing cityscapes, for example. I had some panels in my comic where I was like, this is just not too fun to draw. It happens sometimes, it's very normal, but that could be a thing. Write it all down. Write down any reason you can think of. But also, if there's anything other in your brain of like, but I really need to do the dishes. Oh, and I need to email this person. And oh, I need to, finish that other work thing that I have lying around. Write it all down. This is called a brain dump. And it just can kind of give you more clarity of all the stuff that's going on in your mind. And the reason you're procrastinating might just be that you don't really know what to do in this moment. You actually might want to do your comic, but maybe you have so much other stuff going on that is interfering with your desire to do comics. So write all of that down. And especially if you have like any feelings that you can put words to, for example, like, oh, I'm really afraid I'm going to fail this page, or I'm really afraid I'm going to mess up this expression that I have to draw. Like, write all of that down, because, whether it's fear or intimidation or not exactly knowing what your next action is, doesn't really matter. The symptom is the same as procrastination. We avoid doing the work because our brain has something that it is uncomfortable about, and our brains really don't like being uncomfortable. Write it all down, and then if there's any super pressing stuff, maybe just take a few minutes, go and do the thing, and then look at your paper, and then most of the time, just writing it out can be really helpful. Let's say, for example, you have this very big thing on there of like, I don't know if I can do this. Well, what is the antidote to thinking that? It is taking action and proving to yourself that you can do this. When I finally figured out that one of my biggest issues was that I was afraid that I was going to fail at finishing this comic, I was like, okay, but now I have two choices. I can either not do the comic at all because I'm afraid to fail, or I can do the comic and prove to myself that I can do it. And I chose the latter because that's the better option, in my opinion. So, but writing it out and seeing your brain kind of being anxious about that can already be like a kick in the butt of like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to this voice. I'm just going to go and make my comic. If you have something very specific on there, for example, I really don't know how to approach this panel. Now you have something concrete that you can work on. It's very important with all of this stuff that you keep yourself as free from judgment as possible. Like what I said, I'm a procrastinator, and now you're writing down like, I cannot do it, I'm a bad artist. Try and avoid that kind of stuff, because that all keeps you stuck. And that all, of course you don't want to make comics if you feel like it's a judgment on your skill as an artist. Really try and look at it as like, well, I can improve. The more pages I make, the more improvement I'm going to see. And, maybe you need some knowledge on certain stuff. Like I always have so much trouble with perspective, for example, just saying something. Now you know that maybe you need to do a course on perspective, very specific. Maybe you need to practice it for like a week and then ask another artist for feedback and ask if they can help you with it. Those are all solutions, but it really depends on the stuff that you write down. But one of the things with procrastination is making a choice not to procrastinate, but facing what you're procrastinating about. Because procrastination is not, a lot of people feel like it's some sort of personality trait. I feel like sometimes people talk about it like that, like, but I'm a procrastinator. You see what you're doing? If you believe that you're a procrastinator, you're going to act like a procrastinator. And whenever something's hard, you're going to procrastinate because you're a procrastinator. So instead of thinking those things, tackle it, face it. It's like, okay, I'm procrastinating. Apparently there's something going on and I'm overwhelmed or I don't know what to do exactly. It was just a very practical, like sometimes you just haven't put your plan to paper, you know? Not trying to go on a tangent here, but when it comes to doing large projects, there is planning involved. Just jumping in and just doing something hardly ever works out. But if you make a specific plan of like, I'm going to make a comic of 20 pages and I'm going to start today and I'm going to do it with these materials, then you know what you need to be doing. It's much more clear. If you don't have clarity and if things are vague in your brain, that's a sign that you need to actually start planning a little bit more. If you want some help with, like, if you want to start a comic, it's kind of vague in your brain of what you need to be doing, then I want to direct you to a checklist that I've made, because I made a checklist of all the stuff that I feel like you need in order to prepare before you can start making your pages. So that's stuff about story. I think it's really important to have your story figured out, at least the core story, have that figured out before you start your pages, in order for you to just being able to just go and not eventually getting stuck in some sort of plot point that's not working out. There's stuff about, coming up with ideas and expanding on those ideas, because, you might have some ideas, but you don't know how to connect them together. And, you have to figure out some stuff about pages, page size, what materials are you going to use to make your panel borders? Are you going to make a traditional comic? Are you going to make a digital comic? Where are you going to post your comic? What are the specifications for that place that they require you to have for your comic pages? All of that stuff is something that you can figure out all in advance. And when you have all of that figured out, you make a nice template page that you can use. You can just copy it and make a new page again and again. When you have all of that figured out, you can, there's way less friction in making your pages. So I really wanted to have that checklist for you. Just go through it and, step by step. And if you don't know what to do, refer to that. See what the next step is. If anything is unclear, just message me on Twitter, DM me on Instagram, and we can talk about it. But, if you don't know what to do, try and figure out what to do and plan for it. Go sit down and make a plan. And that brings me to my second point, which is starting today. The year is slightly closing to being done. We're closing up on 2021, and maybe you have an idea of like, I want to start my comic next year. Again, that's putting it off. Might be a form of procrastination. Maybe you don't have time right now to start your comic. That could be a thing. But if you want to start a comic, why not today? Why not right now? Why not make a comic next week and just make it a comic of 1 week? It doesn't necessarily have to be a super elaborate, digitally drawn and colored, full colored comic. It could just be a very simple pencil comic. Like, for example, I finally had some time to draw. Was it already 2 weeks ago? It was already 2 weeks ago, but I had some time to draw, and I was like, oh, I really miss drawing my fox character. This is my character for, for pencils and stories in general, and also for, the YouTube channel and stuff. And I just really love drawing them. And I was like, I'm going to try out some stylistic things of like, how would I do it because usually I draw and color it digitally. And now I just wanted to have some fun with markers. So I got a nice piece of paper, but you can make a comic in literally this style. This one, like literally, it's cute looking, right? It's totally fine. It's the same with like, I have a shark character somewhere here. Yeah, there he is. It's Sharky, if you recognize him from another video that I did. This is super simple to draw. And it's just marker. And if you don't go super elaborate on the backgrounds, you can literally make a 1 to 2 page comic of those characters in a week. It could be super cute, post it to Twitter, post it to Instagram, cute animal characters always work, but you can use like human characters or aliens or whatever. Doesn't have to be super elaborate. Like there's these really great comics. There are a lot of them on Instagram. But for example, you have the Awkward Yeti. I don't know if you know that comic. I love the Awkward Yeti. It's a lot of stuff about, you know, the different kinds of organs in your body, and he just makes characters out of them and they interact with each other. It's really funny, but it's so crudely drawn. And it's just, you know, they draw it and then they fill it with the paint bucket tool. I don't think there's any shadows or hardly any shadows going on. It's super simple. I think a lot of the time is spent coming up with the jokes and the dialogue and stuff. It's the same with, there's a comic of a bunch of aliens who are doing, oh, I forgot the name of the comic. Oh, what is it? It's such a great comic. It's like aliens doing simple human stuff, but they talk about it in a really alien way, which really have to think about, but what are they saying exactly? And if you translate it to normal human speech, it makes a lot of sense, but it's super funny when it's aliens doing stuff, like petting dogs and, having parties, and I don't know. It's a really fun comic. I cannot remember the name right now. But that's also, it's so simply drawn. Those comics rely heavily on the humor and the setting up of the world and the concepts of the thing. But you can also like, I've seen penciled comics just in pencil, super simple, hardly any backgrounds, just characters interacting. The characters are really, very expressive. They have pretty clothing on. It just worked. It worked really well, and it was a very popular webtoon. And you can do that. You can just have a 2-page comic of something. If you want to start making comics, start with something simple. Just grab a pen and make a comic and get that familiarity with putting drawings in boxes with characters who have speech balloons coming out of them. Like, that's how I started. That's how you can start, and you can start today. You don't have to start. You don't have to wait for 2021. And if you're procrastinating because you're intimidated, you might actually want to start with a simpler comic just to get you started. And you will build up that confidence, and you will build up those skills, and you can tackle way more complicated stuff. I see a comment by Lemur Cohorty. I don't know how to pronounce your username. But you have a cute lemur in your avatar. I love that. Go for your dreams, Sharky. Sharky is always going for his dreams. He's always happy to, do things and try new things. Go for it, I would say. If you're intimidated, make a plan. Figure out the steps that you need to take. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It can just be blank piece of paper and a pencil. Draw 4 boxes on it and make something in those 4 boxes. Make a joke, make something. You can even do something super profound in like 4 panels. I've seen those comics on Twitter, like 1-page comics, and it's just, set up, elaborate, punchline, and it's like, can totally work, and it doesn't have to be this super elaborate comic. Make a plan, write down the steps, put it in your planner even, write down when you're going to work on it, write down, I want to make a 2-page comic in 1 week or in 2 weeks. I'm going to do it in pencil. I'm going to do it on paper, and I'm going to post it on Twitter. Done. If that's when you need to get started, that should be a first step into comics. Totally go for it. And if you're overwhelmed, if at any point you're thinking, I don't know what to do and everything's a mess in my head, just do the brain dump. Do the dump on paper and, cross off everything in that list that's not important. But at least now your brain is like free of it, and you can start focusing on the things on that list that actually are important to your brain. Your brain doesn't really make any distinction between important and unimportant. It just keeps everything in there. And the more you keep in there, the more overwhelmed you actually might feel. It's why I do a lot of lists, a lot of brain dumps. It always really helps me. When I'm starting to get overwhelmed, I just start writing. I write out everything in my head, and I make to-do lists of stuff that's actually essential and important. Sometimes a lot of stuff on that list is like, I could do it, I might slightly want to, but it's actually not important. It doesn't bring me closer to my goals. And my goals at this moment are, building pencils and stories, doing Recollection City if I have the time, again, ever. But building pencils and stories is my main priority right now. So it's like work, make money, do pencils and stories, launch my course in January, and like a lot of other stuff is not important. Like do family stuff, house stuff, that's important. But doing that one side project that keeps nagging you might actually be good for a list of like, that's a thing that we're gonna think about again, like in the third quarter of 2021, because right now it's not important and it's not adding to the goals that I want to make. And if one of your goals is making a comic, then that's something that you can start focusing on, and that's important to you. So yeah, that's my tip to stop procrastinating. Get clarity what you're thinking and what is important to you, and then figure out the steps to what is important to you. What does it take for you to make a 200-page comic? If that's one of your goals, write it all out, work backwards from it. I have a 200-page comic, it's finished, I'm posting it on Webtoons. Work backwards. What do you need to do in order to get there? Like, obviously make pages, but what do you need in order to make the pages? You need to figure out how Webtoons works. You need to figure out, how big your episodes can be. All of that stuff. Maybe you need to figure out something more about, I don't know, how to letter. Grab some books, go to blambot.com, which is a great free resource for lettering your comics. Google that stuff, and you'll figure it out. But if you need some help, grab my checklist. It's at pencilsandstories.com/extra. It's also in the description below. You can grab the checklist to start your comic. And yeah, I really hope that will help you get rid of some of the clutter in your brain, and you have like this nice outline of steps that you need to take in order to start making your pages, so you don't have to think about all of that stuff. I already done it for you. So yeah, go grab that, and don't forget to send me a comic page if you want me to review your comic page on Christmas Eve. Yeah, go send that over to me. And for now, I want to thank you so much for watching. If this video was helpful, leave it a thumbs up so YouTube starts recommending it to more people who might want to make comics. Subscribe if you want videos about making comics every single week. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great day and make some comics. Bye, guys. End.